Hey everyone, it's Justin with Green Sabine Mechanics. Today we're going to be talking about playing two cards in one turn and how that strain on your hand size interacts with holding onto a big unit for the end of the game to use ECL to kind of close the game. So one of the things I've been really looking at is Sabine into Bosk Blue and Sabine into the Django Space Triple Dark Raid decks. And one thing that I've noticed in both those matchups is that going wide, aka playing two units in a turn, maybe playing like two drops on the flip turn to get more actions and just sort of get more units on the table against Boss. Blue is really powerful. It kind of negates the power level of their stack effects that they now have six of. And against Django, you're able to get more actions. So you that sort of tap down ability that they have, you're still attacking with sort of these other units that are around. So this concept of playing two cards in a turn is very powerful against two matchups that I would be expecting to see as PQs as they come up. Another component of the two cards thing is it's not always units. Sometimes there's these really powerful events like Rebel Assault, Metal Ceremony. Daring Raid is really strong against Django. So if you're playing one of those cards, you still want to be playing a unit. So you're playing two cards in a turn. But then again, we've got our super powerful end game with ECL. So how does this all work? How many times can you play two cards in a turn and still hold on to that card? So today we're going to look at that math and the overall structure of how the turns develop as we do this. So let's take a look at sort of the visual of some of the cards that I'm talking about. Rebel Assault. Let's sort of go left to right here. Right to left, excuse me. Looking at it backwards. So Rebel Assault is a card that we always want to play later in the game. So it means by definition we're not really able to go on curve that turn, and also we are not going to be satisfied with just playing Rebel Assault. We're going to want to play another unit the turn we play Rebel Assault, other than it just straight up winning us the game as in a single action, which it does frequently do. But if we're playing it sort of the turn, turn three or turn four, we're going to want to jam a unit along with that. So that's a two card turn. Daring Raid has some applications early on, um, but oftentimes we're going to want to play it with another unit. If you're on the draw and they play Kylo's tie against Django, there's certainly times where I would use Daring Raid if I didn't have any other options. But I think it's better to sort of do later in the game when you're also doing something else. So Daring Raid's another card that's going to strain our sort of resourcing decisions and how our resource allocation goes. All right, I'm going to use three of my resources for, let's say, a fleet lieutenant, and then I'm going to have the Daring Raid as my other resource, but that means I'm taking two cards on the fourth resource turn. R2, of course, we can play on turn one. It's a very respectable turn one play. However, he's really shines when you're able to play him and sort of get an extra action, let's say on the fourth resource turn, and play another three drop, which we have plenty of. So R2 is sort of another card that oftentimes will be double carding. Metal Ceremony, another card that will be double carding. And then Wrecker really is the biggest payoff at the end. Um, I find myself resourcing Poe often a lot more than resourcing Wrecker if I'm thinking about which card do I really want to use to close the game. What's not shown on the screen here is just turn four, Battlefield Marine, and an A Wing. That's two units in a turn. Or turn five, any two drop, any three drop, that's two cards in a turn. And then sometimes we're able to maybe play three cards in a turn. Sort of what that does to, again, our hand size and that single card that we're holding on to, that wrecker that we want to win the game with. So let's go turn by turn. I made this visual. I think it's helpful, and I think it's one of those things that once you see it and once you play it a lot and you get experience, it is kind of obvious. But when you haven't had that much experience, it's helpful. This was actually helpful to me to piece this together and think about what this actually does in terms of the number of times that I can double unit in a game and still get to Wrecker if I open hand him and still sort of have him in my hand. So this is our turn one. I put Battlefield Marine there. It could be any of our turn one units. We're always going to be mulliganing for a hand that has a turn one unit. So we're assuming we're playing a turn one unit. We didn't sort of whiff. So we're resourcing the two cards on the left. That's why they've got their X's. We're playing our Battlefield Marine. We open-handed a Wrecker. So this is a scenario. We've got two sort of mystery cards. You'd imagine that there's probably a 3-drop there. The deck plays tons of them, and we probably would mulligan a hand that didn't really have a second play. It could be another 2-drop if that's our turn 2. Oftentimes that's fine. But again, for now they can be mysteries. But this is essentially what happens. We obviously draw 6. We resource 2. We play 1. We end the turn with 3 cards. What's going to happen on the next slide is you're going to draw 2 additional cards. You can see them to my left. And then you're still going to have that Wrecker and the 2 other cards that you had at the end of the turn. So you've essentially got 5 cards, but you're resourcing 1 and you're playing another one. Now, this is the first turn where you theoretically could play 2 cards in one turn. You could play a 2-drop and an R2. You could play something like a Daring Raid. You could even play a Medal Ceremony, just if you want to sort of put that early experience token on a unit. These are all things that are pretty commonplace. So this number, if you see this pattern repeats thing that I have the asterisk there. The pattern repeats. However, that ending turn number of 3 is reduced by 1 for each time you double card. So with that in mind and having the Wrecker in hand, we can only double card twice before turn 5, the ECL turn. And at first you're saying, wait, I should be able to do it 3 times, and then you recognize no, because you can't go to 0. You actually have to keep the Wrecker in hand. So you can essentially think of that. I've got 3 cards in hand. I double unit or double card once. Now I have 2 cards in hand. I do it another time. Now I have 1 card in hand, and that 1 card needs to be that Wrecker, right? So with this in mind, this actually helps our resourcing decisions. This allows us to sort of think about, all right, I have a Rebel Assault. I know that Rebel Assault's really, really good against Django. I have a 4-drop and I have a Poe. I might resource the Poe because I'm going to go 4-drop Rebel Assault on the 5th resource turn, ECL Wrecker on the 6th, and I actually get to use this Medal Ceremony because that'll be my second sort of double card, and I'll still hold the Wrecker. So there's a lot of sort of understanding that can flow from having these internal conversations with yourself about how the games are going to go in these very typical matchups. So I wanted to share that with you guys, and it's one of the things that we do in the Discord a lot is we have a deck thread, Green Sabine, which is super vibrant, and we're just talking about like sequencing. I am going to be doing a deep dive video for the Discord, which is going to be Sabine into Django. It's the matchup I'm most interested in engaging with right now. I think it's one of our hardest matchups. I think those are the 2 best decks, so understanding how this works. I think the matchup's also very close. I think sideboarding is super important. So I'm hoping to get a Discord video up for our members within the next week as we're heading into the holidays. But then right after the holidays is PQ season and a whole bunch of events. So I'm going to be trying to get a lot of Green Sabine content sort of internally. But I wanted to share this one sort of with everyone to say this is something that I've been thinking about a lot, sort of the 2-unit, 2-card turns, and then also the power level of Wrecker. When Mike and I went out to sort of that grassroots video a few weeks ago and we tested Django and Sabine, that was very early on in our testing. I think in one of the games I sided out Wrecker, and now I'm understanding, hey, Wrecker ECL on Sabine, on their Django leader is so strong. That's actually something I'm really looking to do in that matchup. So I'll be having content specific to that matchup, and I think also specific to Bosk Blue. I'm looking to get a deep dive into those 2 matchups. They're decks that I really expect to see in the meta. I think they're some of the strongest things you can do in Star Wars Limited now are Sabine and Bosk and Django. So I think getting comfortability with those matchups is super powerful. So one thing I wanted to cover too is, all right, what happens when you don't have that Wrecker, right? How does this interact? How does this double unit, double card thing work when you don't have a big unit in hand? It could be a Poe. It could be maybe you're saving that. It could be a Wrecker. It could also be you're saving that Poe. But let's say a hand that doesn't have any of them. Well, in that case, you can really go, in Magic we would call this Hellbent. You can dump your hand, You can really do now 3 times. You can completely dump your hand, but really as much as you want because you're actually okay with living off the top of your deck at that point. The way Star Wars Unlimited works, draw one resource, one play the other one. So you can really do it as much as you want. Those are the games, especially when you early ECL like a K2 and you play like 2 medal ceremonies. Those type of games are going to be sort of the other side of the blowout. So if you don't have a card that you're saving, it does change the math there. And really, you want to just be playing as many cards as you can um, to facilitate one of Sabine's other biggest strength, which is just getting ahead so much. So really, I will be playing Sabine at the PQs for the next season whenever they start in January. I've got a couple lined up, and I'm going to be continuing to hopefully get a lot of Sabine content both internally in our Discord and our group, but also some stuff like this where we're able to share with the larger YouTube community as well. So hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope that you are playing 2 units in a turn and you are being the aggressive deck. Take care, everybody.